Hello. So I'm just here to talk to you about my mission statement. It's just a quick. It's my cat and the chickens. They're still getting to know each other. Um, my mission statement is just what my goal is of Compost, Grow, Eat, Repeat. And not even a project proposal, but just some of my, mission statement is. A mission is what your goal is, and then the statement is like you stating your mission. Okay, so for me, sometimes being a record that keeps playing the same tune, repetition is good for people to learn things. So that's why compost, grow, eat, repeat is super important. But also, just to say that my goal, not even for myself, but for what I'm trying to do, because I have different goals for myself than the goal that for compost could repeat, even though they do go hand in hand. So something that I would say was a mission statement that I could just like a quick one, would be to take space, to use space that is already here, to regenerate the soil, to regenerate the next generation, the generations that are in the past that are making new generations. To regenerate generations. So that's my goal, is just taking the take word is not, I don't really like that word, because it reminds me of colonization, but just to use what's already here and use it purposefully and with the community in mind, because I see in areas, in backyards, in front yards, close to water sources, lots, the space is already there. And you could go into real estate to acquire the space, but the space is already there. No matter who the owner is, no matter Mother Earth. That's how we got here. So that's what I'm thinking about. And just because when we provide for the people, when we provide for the ecosystem, when we provide for the earth, when we water it, when we sow seeds, when we make space available for life, and we cultivate that and we contribute to that, that's what the mission statement is, to regenerate the next generation. And that starts by sowing seeds, and by composting, and by taking what we have and using it for, not even for good or for bad, but to prepare the next generation for what's to come. So I would just say compost, grow, eat, repeat. It has its elements that can be implemented anywhere. Compost is about taking what you already have, because a lot of people, now I won't speak for everyone or even what they eat. People eat, some people eat every day, some people eat at different times, but people eat. That's what we're supposed to do. That's energy. So we eat, and then we have food that's left over, food that goes wasted. And that's where the first step is, because people eat. So people eat. You take that food, you take what has been received, and you give back. And then growing your food. So from compost, you can grow food from compost. So it's a big thing, is growing food from compost. The nutrients that doesn't go into your body, then that same calcium you get from kale, the same vitamin C you get from oranges, that same is still there, even if it's not in your body and your body doesn't intake it. The soil intakes it then. So the nutrients, so we eat, we take what we have received and we give it back. Then from that, and before that step, you can start growing before you can start composting, straight up. But then with your regenerated soil, because you're regenerating the soil when you compost, you put more nutrients back into the soil, and then you grow from that. You sow seeds, you water it, plants start to grow. You get food, you get bees, you get different bugs coming maybe where they weren't attracted to because there was nothing there for them. So you plant flowers, you do aesthetic, you do holistic, you do medicinal, edible, all of it. You bring it together, and that's the growing part. And then from that is eating. So that's my favorite part. Besides, I think composting is a little bit more my favorite part than eating. But then you eat. You take what you've received and you eat. And that's not even just you grow your food and then you eat it. That's not it. That's not the only thing there is, because there's also eating is about focusing on what you eat, and it's about compost, grow, eat, repeat. Eating is about being more, not even more. It's good to be mindful of your words, because you could just talk, you could just spit out things and have an idea of what you're saying, or other people have an idea of what you're saying. But when you use those words, you hear them, but also your brain hears them too. So the subconscious is very important. And I think when people become more conscious of the subconscious, they look at everything different. Real quick note is, this is a pro tip. I have lots of pro tips, but this is one of my proest tips possible. What I do, because I'm trying to be more conscious of my subconscious. So what maybe I just intake and that's it for me. I won't remember it or I won't think about it, but in my subconscious, the subconscious affects it affects like how you see things and how you look at things and how you think about them. And you subconsciously, things go into your subconscious all the time. So I say this all to say, because I want to keep on track of compost, grow, eat, repeat. I was on eat right now, but what you eat, gosh, where did I go from there? Compost, grow, eat, repeat, eat. So eating is just being more conscious, that's what I was saying, more conscious. So or more mindful is to be mindful, is to be conscious of what you eat. Looking at the ingredients is a so simple, super way to start. How I got started is to just even have the idea to look at the ingredients. Okay, let me just turn it around real quick and look at the ingredients. And it will say ingredients, and then it will have 2 colons, ... and then it will list all of the ingredients. And the thing about it is, they don't tell you how much they put in it or how they got how they made the ingredient that's in there. I don't want to get too in depth in this right now, because this was just my mission statement. But like my favorite one, if you know me, you know this. Red 40. Just an example. Red 40 is a dye. I won't even call it a food dye, because it's in shampoo, it's in body wash for children, or it's called maybe Red 33, or Yellow 5. Like they have different names. They have the color is the same, but 33 or 5 or 40 or 11, that's the part I don't know about that yet. I can have an idea, but unless I know, I'm not going to say anything on it. But I say this all to say that Red 40 is an ingredient. So when you look on the back of your Takis, when you look on the back of your Skittles, on the back of your Mike and Ikes, anything, you'll see the Red 40. But then the Red 40, it doesn't have what's in the Red 40 to make it Red 40, so that it's an ingredient on the package. So you're looking at the ingredients. You got high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup isn't just like bam, that's high fructose corn syrup. That's the ingredient. They make high fructose corn syrup and then they add it into I was gonna say like syrup that you put on pancakes, but syrup and corn syrup, I didn't want to get confused. But let's see another one. There's so many out there. Why can't I just think of one like that? I can't think of one right now. So I'm gonna use the syrup one. On the back of any generic syrup, for your pancakes or your waffles, you'll find high fructose corn syrup. And I say this to say, red 40, high fructose corn syrup. When you look on the ingredients with the colon, it'll say high fructose corn syrup. It'll say red 40. But it doesn't tell you what's in the red 40 to make red 40. It just says this ingredient is in this larger box of Takis. But before it got to be red 40, to be in the Takis, it had to be made to red 40. If you're picking up what I'm putting down. This video is already 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Let me stop. So I didn't want to go too in depth. This was just a mission statement talking about how I'm trying to regenerate the soil, regenerate the next generation, the generation we're already in, regenerate the generation. So our ancestors and the future, you know what I mean? So one time someone told me that there was this group of people, and something that they lived by was that whenever they were making a decision, they would think about seven generations back. So that's like, let's see how many generations. My mom, my dad, that's one generation. And next generation is my grandparents on both sides. So that's like 4 people, but that's one generation, depending. And then their parents, one generation, that's another generation. So my great grandparents. And then one more generation. So my great grandparents' parents. Okay. So my great grandparents' they had children. And that was my grandparents. Then they met up as when they did, and then they had children. That's my parents. And then my parents, when they met up, they had me, and I'm the generation now. And then when I have children, when I meet my partner and we have children, that will be the next generation. So there's already generations. There's so many generations already here. I got family that are in the next generation already. But I say this all to say that there was this group of people, and they would think 7 generations behind them and 7 generations forward. So that's I'm the great grandma. I'm the great grandma. You know what I mean? And I got my children's children's. You know what I mean? So when you think about it like that, it puts things into perspective, because my DNA has been alive for so long, for me to be right here in 2020. So far back, my generation's been alive. You know, it's been flowing through different people to make me who I am today, inside and out. And my generation, my DNA will continue. My DNA will continue. And my children better have some children, you know what I mean? Because then it will continue. So just thinking about that, like even my mother, she was going to buy a house. And it was it was right by the river, by the Sacramento River. And my sister was saying, she made a good point. She looked at a topographical map, which means like a map that shows the different levels. Because like even here, we're in a valley. And then you go towards San Francisco and you go up hills before you get out of the valley. Or you go to the east. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction or not. I'm just saying right and left, you know what I mean? So then to the right is more hills. You know, you go up the hills, and then you go down. And then there's more hills and stuff. But the topographical map. So on a topographical map, you'd be able to see all those different things. So the point of this all is that my mother was going to buy a house. It was right by the Sacramento River. My sister made a good point to look at a topographical map and see that right where the house was dipped in. Like not even in the valley, but in Sacramento, it was dipped there. So natural disasters, global warming, climate change, it's all real. I'll share a little poem with you before I end this with definitely won't be longer than 23 minutes. So she looked at the map, and she was like, oh yeah, like you shouldn't buy that house, like it's right next to the river, which was really nice, super nice. But if when, I don't know, I'm gonna say if the river floods, then the water will be where the house is at, and you have to get flood insurance, and that's more money and different things like that. So she made that good point. And then she also said, this is my sister, she said, it's a helicopter. She said, what about your grandchildren? What about my children? If you want to give this house to your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, do you want them to have a house that is right by the river and may flood? Nah, you know what I mean? And it also had a really small backyard, and I'm trying to have land. So that was just an example of thinking generations ahead of you, and thinking about generations behind you too, but thinking about the future, and thinking about all the generations that are in the process of being made, you know. So that was just a good point. I'd have to look back at the video to see how this all connected. I know I could think hard about it, enough about it, and it would come back. But compost, giving what you have received, giving that back so that the cycle can continue. Growing your own food, growing where the grass is green, food can be grown. Because all I need is some dirt and some seeds and some water. And some food scraps, you know what I mean? But yeah, so compost, grow, regenerating the next generation, the generation we're in now, regenerating it, you know? Compost, grow, eat. So, okay, let's see. Okay, I think I can remember where I was at. Because I was talking about the ingredients, and then I was talking about how an ingredient has ingredients that aren't labeled. So that's important to think about. But how did I get to the 7 generations? Can you tell me how I got to the 7 generations? So I say this all the time. Repeat. So that's the most important part, is sustainability, is making sure that it can continue. That whether it be a program, Compost, Grow, Repeat, Compost, Grow, Eat, Repeat be a program you implement into your housing, into your school, into your community center, into your business. It's an educational program, but it's also a lifestyle. And so that's where the repeat comes in, because that's the most, and that's why, though I love composting, if you know me, you know I love composting. Though I love composting so much, and I love growing my own food, and I love eating and reading the ingredients and talking about Red 40, the thing that I love most, the thing that I think is the most important, is repeating the process. Because you can compost, grow, eat, repeat. Okay, if you can compost, grow, eat, but if you don't repeat it, then what? Then what? You know, it's good to compost, grow, eat. I ain't knocking anyone that does that. But if the repeat, I would say that's one of the most. There's only 3 parts. It's bigger than that, but it's crucial to repeat it. And that's where it's a lifestyle. That's where it's talking about sustainability. That's where, when you implement it, when you implement this program, when you implement this educational system into your life, into your business, into your community, The repeat is the most important part, because you have to make sure it's sustainable, whether it be having a water outlet source always there available, whether it be having an area, having a weekly intervention, whether it be having a weekly consultation of different people that need to